When emergency first responders were overwhelmed by Los Angeles County's most destructive fire yet, a band of surfers, along with their neighbors and friends, stepped up to defend their home turf in Malibu. Their devotion to home drove them to show up for their community during the fire and for years afterward. And now, a model they call the Community Brigade program could change everything, leading to more lives and more homes saved during the increasing wildfires across not just California, but the world. Join reporter Adriana Cargill from KCRW, NPR's All Things Considered, Crooked Media, and more, as she investigates a wildfire story that is not depressing, but is, in fact, a clear hope for the future. Listen now to Sandcastles, an award-winning podcast about home, how we create it, and why we fight so hard for it. This week, are car dealers the devil, and why? And later, the news. Can we build a green economy without China? Bird flu explained. Russia quits the Black Sea grain deal, and AI journalists are coming for the entire internet. But first, I'm Quinn Emmett, and this is Important Not Important, science for people who give a shit. The newsletter features the most important science news, how to think about it, and what the hell you and I can do about it. Hit subscribe right now to get this newsletter and my conversation with the world's smartest people every single week. You can find the email version and links to everything at importantnotimportant.com or right in your show notes. It's July 21st, 2023. Here's your weekly action steps. Number 1. Donate to Grid Alternatives, an organization building community-powered clean energy solutions that advance economic and environmental justice. Number 2. Volunteer your school or workplace to participate in the EPA's Clean Air in Buildings Challenge. Number 3. Get educated about leasing an EV with Electric's cultivated list of factory lease offers. Number 4. Purchase fresh produce from your local farms with Grown By, and if you're a farmer, start selling on the app. And last, invest in a better world with impact assets and ensure your philanthropic dollars are making a measurable difference. And now, today's big question. Here's the thing about American car dealers. They're a hell of a lot wealthier than you think, and they're standing right directly in the way of reducing fossil fuel use by 2/3 and our emissions by 1/3. Caveating here that electric vehicles are still pollution-spewing nightmares and that our parking laws have destroyed our cities, so EVs are not the answer. Far fewer cars and drastically better, safer, and more prevalent public transportation and mobility infrastructure are the big win here. But at the same time, EVs remain one enormous lever to reduce our overall emissions by eliminating our transportation emissions, with the vital co-benefits, we love co-benefits, of immediately eliminating tailpipe emissions as every ICE engine or gas engine or diesel or whatever is replaced. But among the obstacles standing in the way of completely turning over our automobile fleet, at least in the US, are ever-powerful and relatively wealthy GOP-loyal car dealers. And now, I'm not generalizing here. From Slate, in an article you should definitely read, car dealers, gas station owners, and building contractors, it turns out, make up the majority of the country's 140,000 Americans who earn more than $1.58 million a year. Here's some more context. Pre-IRA, we spent years asking how we could possibly sell all the electric cars we need to, considering unreliable federal subsidies, nary a charging network in sight, range anxiety, all, by the way, communicated by car dealers who simply weren't incentivized to sell them. And one big reason for that is the lion's share of dealership profits come from gas engine maintenance and repairs. From The Atlantic in January 2002, which is exactly 1,000 years ago. Quote, Daniel Crane, a law professor at the University of Michigan who studies dealer protection laws, agrees. EVs, with their lower upkeep costs, can't provide the cash flow that dealers need to survive. Dealers' economic model is to make all their money on service, he told the reporter. They have a 30% margin on service, but only a 5% margin on sales. It's just a very, very different model. And those profits, by the way, folks, are actually basically protected by law. For most Americans, local antitrust laws, sure, still forbid car makers from selling their wares directly by the manufacturer or online or both. Despite lobbying and legal efforts from Tesla and others, dealer industry groups, so organizing, see the end game of what's happening here, and they're not having it. Again, from that same Slate article, car dealers are not only one of the richest demographics in the United States, they're also one of the most organized political factions. A conservative imperium giving millions of dollars to politicians at local, state, and national levels. They lobby through NADA, or NADA, and donate to Republicans at a rate of 6-1. So, look, dealers who may have at least been semi-interested in EVs have been confronted with real new questions like, how the hell do I market EVs that in turn pay for my GOP dark money contributions? But also, practically, where the hell am I going to install chargers so EVs can be driven off the lot? Those are real questions, and they're tough to answer, and so the dealers mostly answered, no, we're not doing that. As recently as 2019, 3/4 of U.S. dealerships weren't offering EVs for purchase, full stop. But just this week, Nat Bullard reported in Bloomberg, 53% of consumers said they felt EVs are the future and will largely replace gas engines over time, but only 31% of dealers said they felt the same way. But look, here's the thing. California's EV sales regulations and all the states that latched on, plus the IRA, really flipped the script here. And now the pressure's on. EVs are getting more affordable, and 51% of Americans are considering buying one. But despite historic loans for battery factories to Ford and historic production tripling their market share, EVs are stacking up in dealership lots as dealers continue to fight back. As the great charging build-out continues and suddenly coalesces around Tesla's standard, as IRA rebates get worked out in each state, and we hold on to automobiles, especially big fucking trucks, a lot longer than we ever have, something like 12, 13 years each. Why? Why are we holding them? Why are we so beholden to this? Well, cars cost a lot, but they're also kind of required because we decided it should be that way. And if you want more information on that, I encourage you to go, I think, one back in your feed and listen to my conversation with Nicholas Dagan Bloom about the Great American Transit Disaster. Anyways, you get the point here. Now, let's make it interesting, because these sort of obstacles, car dealers, don't exist in isolation. I'm going to conduct a thought exercise. What are the other examples of car dealers, so known obstacles, purposefully standing in the way of progress? And I ask because, one, bad guys are real, and two, because knowing who's standing in the way of progress is just as important as who's doing the work. A future positive mindset, which I love, actually requires smashing our rose-colored glasses to see the world how it is now, to identify who has their hands on the levers of power, and then to remove them finger by goddamn finger. To grossly oversimplify, there are, 3 versions of car dealer-like obstacles to progress that I can think of right now that extend to other verticals. Number 1, purposeful. Actual bad guys who know exactly what the hell they're doing, hellish warming be damned. They know the stakes, they're not doing it. Number 2, inadvertent. Not totally convinced how the pieces are connected or how to change. Not super interested in finding out, but might do it if the money's right. Number 3, systemic. These are a product of time and entropy, so deeply embedded that one policy move or one election isn't going to get it done. And in doing them would require undoing a lot of everyday life, even if we have to. So here's my questions, and here's your homework, and I would love to hear from you, and you can send it right into us at questions@importantnotimportant.com. I've got some other examples below, and I'd love to hear where you see analogies and not. Specifics to your town, your city, your shire, or even your country would be delightfully additive, and I will share the best ones should we get some that are really compelling. So other examples, local public health, so obstacles. City councils, hospital systems, private equity, school boards. Clean water, so think wastewater treatment, local agriculture, leaky pipes. Public utility commissions, they're an obstacle in themselves, but otherwise a lack of knowledge that they exist and why the hell that is still the case. Healthy, accessible food, food waste, local air pollution, so the air you breathe, mobility infrastructure, bike, walking, etc., banned books, farm worker protections, we just talked about that 2 weeks ago, forever chemicals, vaccine equity, fast fashion, maternal health, black maternal health, AI ethics, pandemic preparedness, which seems insane to say, the selling of your location data, school lunches, urban planning, home electrification, just talked about that, and of course, Medicaid expansion. So, of course, there's more. You get the idea. I can't wait to see what you come up with. But again, it's really important to understand, identify and understand and come to terms with who is standing in the way of requisite progress. And now, the news. In climate change news, an article on why the impacts of climate change are escalating so quickly. Number 2, a new registry could make carbon removal more accessible and more trustworthy. Maybe. Number 3, what's China's role in America's green economy? Number 4, what the warming planet means for the future of pathogens and diseases. Good Lord. In food and water news, vegan or plant-based diets result in 75% less emissions, water pollution, and land use. 75% less. That's not about local food. That is plant-based food. Number 2, manufacturing silicon chips requires a shit ton of water. Number 3, Russia has quit its grain deal with Ukraine, originally made to avert a global food crisis, and will now target commercial ships in the Black Sea. And last, school lunches are now free permanently in 6 states. In health and bio news, it's time to get serious about bird flu. You wouldn't believe how many birds are being killed. Number 2, how long COVID is impacting the global south, something else we don't talk about enough. Number 3, family homelessness is on the rise, and the Federation of Scientists is crowdsourcing for national policies to increase housing supply. You can submit your idea at the link in the show notes. Number 4, tornado damage to Pfizer plant will likely lead to long-term shortages of medicine. Great. In computer news, bots are grabbing students' personal data when they complete online assignments, which shouldn't be allowed. Number 2, Google's testing a new AI tool that can write news articles. So they take, just to be clear, journalists write the articles, they're posted online, Google sucks them up, and then spits them back out into an AI tool that writes them instead of the journalists, and that's the news circle of life. Anyways, secretaries of state are getting ready for AI-fueled disinformation during the 2024 campaign. Feels like table stakes. And last, Facebook messages can be used in a Nebraska abortion case. We've talked about that quite a bit. That's it for this week. Hit subscribe to get next week's issue straight to your feed. To go deeper, visit importantnotimportant.com. Thanks for being a part of our community, and thanks for giving a shit. Have a great weekend.